1919 was an auspicious year in history. The First World War ended, ushering a drastic change in the world order. The Philippine Islands had been a U.S. territory for 2 decades and was promised independence under the Jones Law of 1916. Progressive reformers saw the country and its people as a major target for modernization, and education was its main weapon. 7 forward-looking Filipinas came together in 1919 to create a school where young women could gain the knowledge and skills that would make them modern women. Paz Marquez Benitez was the first president of the Philippine Women's College. Jose Abad Santos was its first chairman of the Board of Trustees. Francisca Tirona Benitez was the second president, and with her husband Dean Conrado, guided the school from a house on A. Flores Street to its iconic Taft Avenue campus. In 1932, the college became a university, making PWU the first university for women in Asia founded by Asians. It provided a space where innovations in education flourished, and young people were encouraged to be the best that they could be. For over 100 years, the Philippine Women's University has been known as a leader in quality education. In 1934, PWU moved into its main campus on Taft Avenue, and since the 1970s has been co-educational. Located in the heart of Metro Manila, it is easily accessible by public transport and surrounded by affordable housing. Today's PWU offers undergraduate and graduate courses in several fields of study. Its business and management programs are responsive to the needs of industry, using evolving technology for global competence. PWU graduates excel in arts and sciences, education, social work, and diplomacy. Its fine arts and music programs have produced outstanding graduates through a holistic education that treasures heritage as well as excellence. PWU has pioneered in fields such as food science, nutrition and dietetics, medical technology, pharmacy, and nursing. PWU continues to play an essential role in producing graduates who possess the skills that make them competitive in the country and anywhere in the world.
We are a united community.
We may not be blood related,
but we Patriots are one big family.
Being part of the PWU community strengthens us.
Through the years, we support each other through good times and bad times.
We Patriots always have each other's back.
It's a big honor to be part of a community that is open to the ideas of each other.
It drives us to excel and be the best version of ourselves.
That's the standard of excellence that we Patriots strive for.
I'm thankful that this community lets us be who we want to be.
We thrive because we accept each other for who we are.
And like a family, we treat each other equally.
Actually, PWU gave us a home and helped us to be a patriot in society.
We may have different individual drums and instruments,
but we march to the same beat together as one united community.
Do you want to march with our community of patriots?
I am a patriot.
I am a patriot.
I am a patriot.
I am a patriot.
my patriotic greeting from Philippine Women's University. A pleasant morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the School of Tourism and Hospitality Management Graduate Program, I am Rachel Pitogo, and we are very pleased to welcome you all to our webinar entitled 3R's for Today's Tourism: Reinforcing Partnership, Rebuilding Trust, and Recovering Industry. We are excited as you all are here to know how the Philippine marketing, diplomacy, and management will transform in the new normal. But before proceeding with the program properly, let me bring you the objectives of today's event. The graduate students of Master of Tourism Management Class 2021 aim to strengthen the partnership of our country through international public relations, to regain the trust among the tourist industry practitioners and providers as part of embracing the recovery of tourism for today, to integrate such lines of action and recovery plans for tourism to build back better, to re-edify the domestic and international tourism in markets perspective, and to create resilient and sustainable tourism in the future. We would also like to remind everyone that once we started this webinar, kindly mute your microphone and open your cameras for the opening prayer, to be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Sa simoy at sa langit mong bukaw, may dilagang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdiligdig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidinig. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinabay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya dapat may mga abi ang mamatay ng
formally start our webinar, we are pleased to welcome the compassionate and charismatic leader of Philippine Women's University, President Marco Alfredo M. Benitez, for his inspirational message.
Our keynote speaker, Honorable Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat of the Department of Tourism, His Excellency Jesus S. Domingo, Philippine Ambassador to New Zealand and concurrently to Cook Islands, Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga, Attorney Maria Antoinette Velasco Alones of the Tourism Promotions Board, Mr. Bobby Horrigan of Horrigan Hospitality, University administrators, the organizers of today's webinar, led by our graduate students from the MS Tourism Management Program and their professors, of course, our students and guests watching on our social media pages, a pleasant morning to all of you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in this webinar with the theme, 3R's for Today's Tourism, Reinforcing Partnerships, Rebuilding Trust, Recovering Industry. The challenges faced by the tourism industry as one of the hardest hit industries during this global pandemic have been well documented. As countries close their borders and impose stringent quarantine measures to slow the spread of COVID-19, both local and international tourism grinded to a near standstill. For the Philippines in particular, which had one of the world's longest lockdowns, the travel industry was forced to find creative ways to sustain itself throughout the past 2 years. Despite that, tourist arrivals from Jan to June 2021 were down 96% versus the same period in 2020. Latest data from the Department of Tourism, however, gave a glimpse of hope, as the April to September 2021 figures showed a drastic increase in tourist receipts, amounting to 3.1 billion pesos, up by 91%, from 1.6 billion generated in the same period in 2020. In fact, up until the Omicron surge in late December, the general outlook for the tourism industry became more positive, particularly for local tourist destinations, which allowed fully vaccinated Filipinos to travel without the need to present a negative RT-PCR test. In Boracay alone, one of the country's premier tourist destinations, arrivals grew more than 1,000% to roughly 173,000 from a low of about 14,000 for the same period the previous year, according to the Philippine News Agency. Now that the worst of the Omicron surge seems to be behind us, and the country has removed quarantine restrictions for fully vaccinated Filipino and foreign travelers as of February 10, the tourism industry, which has been resilient throughout this pandemic, is now bracing for a major resurgence. According to a latest news report as of February 14, in the 4-day period since the removal of quarantine restrictions, more than 5,000 foreigners arrived in the Philippines, comprising more than half of the 9,000 plus inbound tourist arrivals, the remaining 4,000 of which were made up of balikbayans. Through all of these challenges, the tourism industry has employed several strategies, 3 of which are the topic of today's event. Reinforcing partnerships, both local and international, have been crucial for the members of the sector. These have come in the form of partnerships with their respective LGUs, fellow industry members such as consortia or associations of hospitality establishments to share best practices, or even medical and health organizations to help strengthen the health and safety protocols in their establishments. Obviously, none of us, even in the education sector, could have tackled this pandemic on our own. A whole-of-industry approach was necessary to help the members survive and adapt to the myriad of challenges we have been facing. Rebuilding trust is another key strategy which the tourism industry found necessary to survive. As destinations began to open up to tourism, a key driver and decision point for travelers would be the trust they had in the safety protocols employed by the local authorities and the establishments themselves. Thus, the strong thrust of our Department of Tourism to ensure the high rate of vaccination of the employees of the tourism sector is a key component of rebuilding the trust of travelers, and is one of the things I'm sure the agency is proud of. Moving forward, as many areas have now opened up, this criteria will still be among those highly considered by travelers when planning their trips. Finally, recovering industry, the tourism industry in particular, will not happen overnight. The concept of revenge travel, which is expected to bolster the industry in the short term, will be tempered by the economic hardships experienced by the majority in the past 2 years. For the industry to continue its strong and sustainable recovery, Strategies employing the first two above mentioned, reinforcing partnerships and rebuilding trust, are critical. More sustainable, eco-friendly, and transformative tourism, where the emphasis is on less crowded, environmentally friendly, and safe destinations and experiences, will be the norm. We look forward to today's webinar, where no less than the Secretary of Tourism herself and key figures in the industry share with us their thoughts and insights, as well as the strategies and roadmap for the sector's recovery now that we have opened up our borders, and more importantly, in the medium and long term, despite the ongoing health crisis. So, congratulations once again to the organizers, and may you all have a very meaningful and informative session.
At this time, for the welcome message, please join me to welcome our beloved Dean of School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, Dr. Eframuel Jose L. Abellana, aka Dean Prime. Let us give them a virtual applause.
Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, a Patriots greetings to all. It is my pleasure to welcome all virtual participants this morning. I heartily welcome our respected PW University President, Mr. Marco Alfredo M. Benitez, our PWU University Chancellor and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Felina C. Young, and the rest of all Vice Presidents in our university. Greetings to our invited keynote speaker, Honorable Secretary of the Philippine Department of Tourism, Bernadette Romulo Puyat, Honorable Ambassador Jesus Gary S. Domingo, Philippine Ambassador to New Zealand, Cook Islands, Fiji, Niue, Samoa, and Tonga, Mr. Bobby Horrigan, Founder and CEO of Horrigan Hospitality, and Attorney Maria Antoinette Velasco Aliones, Chief Operating Officer, Tourism Promotions Board Philippines. Our resource speakers will be formally introduced later. To our dearest faculty members of the organizing sections, namely Dr. Cristina Calusa, Dr. Maria Erling de Zacarias, and Dr. Angelina Blanco, and to all faculty members of the graduate schools of tourism and hospitality management. I warmly welcome to all our invited schools, colleges, and universities, together with their deans, chairs, faculty members, and their students watching us right now in this virtual program. I wish that all of you will learn and be inspired of the updates and trends from the talks of our speakers, and to share their knowledge and thought-provoking insights, statements, questions, and their experiences in the industry of today in the government and private sectors. Today, I am very happy and express my congratulations to the organizers of collaborative 3 classes of the Master of Science in Tourism Management students batch 508A, Tourism and Hospitality Marketing and Product Development, 515A, International Tourism and Hospitality Diplomacy, and MSTM 512, Tourism and Hospitality Management, special to Jenaline, Dave, Sydney, Florence, Jessica, and to your amazing classmates and teammates. We're having this international webinar with the theme 3R's for today's tourism: reinforcing partnerships, rebuilding trust, and recovery industry. Our goals this morning: through international public relations, our country's alliance will be strengthened to adopt and embrace and revival of trust among tourists, industry practitioners, and providers of today's tourism. Number three, to include such strategies in tourist recovery plans in order to improve tourism recovery. In terms of market, to rethink the role of domestic international tourism. In the future, to develop tourism that is resilient and long-term. With the level 2 restrictions in Metro Manila, the tourism industry and all stakeholders are excellently preparing and implementing their plans and programs in reinforcing innovations, creation of the next normal business strategies, and of course leading to the continual improvement of trust in their brand promise for the customers and the entire country for a better tourism industry. And let us all be attentive and be engaged with the insights and highly significant shared experiences of the invited eminent speakers, and all of them will be addressing the background and trends in the tourism and hospitality industry. You may raise your questions on the left part of the program. I hope that this 2-hour webinar would help our students more in their quest of knowledge and excitement to listen to our eminent speakers here and abroad. And I welcome you once again to this university, our PWU. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you, Mabuhay. Good morning.
At this point, we feel honored to have with us the dignified Secretary of the Philippine Department of Tourism, Honorable Bernadette Romulo Puyat.
Hi, this is Berna Romulo Puyat of the Department of Tourism. A pleasant day to everyone. Thank you to the Philippine Women's University, PWU, especially the students of the School of Tourism, Graduate Studies, for inviting me to be part of this webinar with the theme 3R's for Today's Tourism: Reinforcing Partnerships, Rebuilding Trust, Recovering Industry. I would also like to congratulate our graduate students for pursuing advanced studies even amidst the pandemic. Continuous learning and updating of skills for our industry practitioners are all the more important as we work towards resilient and sustainable tourism recovery. The past 2 years have been challenging, yet our innate resilience helped us survive this pandemic. The collaboration between the public and private sector allowed the tourism industry and its allied sectors to thrive in the new normal. Today, you ask how tourism and hospitality management, marketing, and international diplomacy can contribute to the tourism industry's overall recovery, advancement, and inclusive growth. Foremost, we need to have an understanding on how the pandemic affected the industry and our market. For industry stakeholders, the first thing we did is to find viable solutions to keep tourism enterprises and the workforce afloat. In coordination with other government agencies, we provided financial assistance to our tourism workers and helped businesses access zero-interest, no collateral loans. Meanwhile, based on a survey we conducted, the needs and preferences of travelers have changed. They prefer the outdoors and customized small group tours. Accordingly, we recalibrated our tourism products. As early as June of 2020, we also issued the necessary health and safety guidelines for tourism enterprises and destinations together with the private sector to follow and implement. We tapped digital solutions for travel registration, efficient contact tracing, and to enable contactless transactions. But the best way to revive confidence is to ensure that those who work in the tourism sector are fully vaccinated. We have been ramping up our vaccination efforts, and as of Feb 4, 2022, 92.51% of tourism workers nationwide have been fully vaccinated. We are now doing our booster program. While the strategy is to pivot to domestic tourism to jumpstart recovery, we sustained international promotion so that foreign tourists will consider the Philippines as their next travel destination. Prior to reopening our borders, diplomacy played a key role. We have reciprocal arrangements with several countries. They recognize the Department of Health's VaxCert PH, as we likewise accept their national or state digital vaccination certificates. We are also streamlining our protocols to make travel convenient to tourists, but without compromising health and safety. In closing, I wish to assure everyone that tourism and hospitality will bounce back. Leisure travel has resumed, and we have reopened our borders to fully vaccinated tourists from visa-free countries. We just need to continue to work together to fully transform adversities into doable opportunities and bringing into fruition laudable industry recovery milestones. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much. Please continue to follow minimum health and safety protocols, and mabuhay.
Thank you, Secretary Puyat, for providing your gracious presence to join us today. At this juncture, to properly introduce our speaker, may we call our dynamic instructor in tourism and hospitality marketing and product development, Dr. Maria Erlinda S. Zacarias.
Good morning, fellow educators, stakeholders, and students from different colleges and universities. One of our speakers this morning is an educator, OD practitioner, leadership coach, and lawyer with extensive professional experience in public, strategic, and reform management. She holds a master's degree in public management from the joint program of the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, and the Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University. She also completed her Master in National Security Administration at the National Defense College of the Philippines and earned her Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Bachelor of Laws at the University of the Philippines. She has served as Assistant Secretary for Personnel at the Department of National Defense and also as Assistant Secretary at the Department of Labor and Employment. She's a member of the core faculty of the Ateneo School of Government and serves as subject matter expert for the Career Executive Service Board's Leadership Development Program. She earned the distinction to be the first and only recipient of the prestigious 10 Outstanding Young Men Award for HRD in Government Service in the Philippines. From 2007 to January 2020, she served as Executive Director of the CESB, transforming the key programs on leadership selection, training and development for the higher civil service. Since February 2020, she serves as the Chief Operating Officer of the Tourism Promotions Board. Fellow educators, stakeholders, students from different colleges and universities, let's all welcome Attorney Maria Antoinette C. Velasco Aliones.
Hello, my dear graduate students of the Philippine Women's University. It is truly my honor and my blessing and my joy to be with you today and talk about what our plans are, what have we done through the pandemic in order to prepare for the recovery of the Philippine tourism industry. And there are three pillars by which I want to do this with you. The conversation today will hopefully take us through what we've done in terms of accepting certain situations that we have faced through this pandemic, how we pivoted or adapted through these challenges so that we were able to act responsibly, pertinently, and timely to be able to rebuild our beloved industry of tourism. The most common question often asked of me through the pandemic was, how do you promote Philippines in the time of COVID? And I think this question is quite relevant and quite correct, because how do you even undertake promotions when the borders are closed to foreign tourists? And even domestically, we have seen granular lockdowns, we have seen disparate situations of how COVID cases have affected different regions and therefore our tourism destinations. And then, of course, there's the protocols and safety requirements that we had to deal with, and they also vary from one local government unit to another, which overall have impacted the ease, the convenience of travel, and therefore the willingness of people and tourists to actually go around. But I would like to share with you at this point this video that we prepared through the pandemic as, you know, a guide to how well did we promote and what focus did we try to achieve. So there you see that the focus of tourism promotions and campaign was, of course, centered on readiness, and that readiness had to do with the top-of-mind concern of safety and being able to promote healthy destinations. And so at the center of the tourism promotions effort was the shared concern for the top-of-mind health and safety priority of our travelers and our host destination communities. Even now, as we do this gathering, and we are still through the pandemic, praying hopefully that we are on the mend in terms of this Omicron surge right now. It will eventually lead to herd immunity and the end of the pandemic. We still see that the consciousness for health and safety travel, for health and safe travel, is there. By way of context, let me walk you back to the importance of why we needed to sustain promotions of our destinations. In 2019, which was the banner year for tourism for the Philippines, you will note or you will remember that we actually received 8.2 million visitors. So this was prior to COVID, and this was our banner year for tourism. And the receipts gained from these activities contributed to 12.7% of our gross domestic product, which also helped create 5.7 million jobs. In a 2021 report on the Philippine tourism industry, we have gathered that for the pandemic year of 2020, the foreign tourist receipts decreased by 82%, and out of the 5.7 million jobs in tourism, sorry, that's not 48 million, that is supposed to read 4.8 million out of the 5.7 million tourism jobs have been adversely affected. Either our tourism workers have been unemployed or underemployed. So they've putting in less hours, less days in terms of work. And then, of course, with the decrease of foreign tourist receipts, logically that emanated from the fact that our foreign visitors also decreased about more than 80%, which by absolute number translates to 6.7 million. So makikita ninyo, no, talagang malaki yung diferensya ng pandemic year 2020 and then compared to 2019, which was our banner year. When we pursued adaptive strategies to address these challenges, we were guided by certain policy pillars. One of them was to ensure that the policies were timely, were responsive, and were done in support of our thrust to promote safe and fun tourism. And it also was premised on being able to cultivate convergence with our stakeholders, the private sector partners, including you, members of the academy, so that we would be able to develop and formulate and promote sustainable domestic tourism, which has become a key concern, not just for us in the Philippines, but all over the world. And of course, there was the continuing need to address capacity enhancement requirements, not just for leaders, but also more specifically among our tourism workers, to ensure that their skills were updated, they remained employable and productive, given the ever-changing needs of work-from-home arrangements, of alternative work arrangements, and the increased need for them to be adept on the use of ICT and digital platforms. The Department of Tourism, through the pandemic, led the formulation of the Tourism Response and Recovery Plan. The TRRP, as it is known, was also was finalized with the help of our private sector stakeholders and various members of the different sectors of society. As I said, including you, our partners from the academy. Central to the TRRP was also the formulation comprehensive health and safety guidelines for our tourism sectors, 11 sectors within the tourism industry. And this actually started early through the pandemic in May 2020. And these efforts paved the way for us to successfully help in the reopening of various destinations in our key sites, of course, with health and safety protocols in place. The TRRP consists of 6 important pillars, and these 6 pillars are flashed on the screen, which include us being able to secure livelihood and adequate social services, not just for our communities, but more in particular, our tourism workers. Then we also wanted to help our establishments, particularly the medium, small, and micro enterprises, because they were the most affected, and we wanted to help them sustain business operations. So for that, we were able to advocate with Congress for the provision of 3 billion worth of zero interest loans, which is being administered by the Small Business and Guarantee Fund under the Department of Trade and Industry, and that's available to various tourism accommodation establishments, enterprises, and of course, in particular, the MSMEs. We also wanted to help secure livelihood and provide adequate social services. So the DOT led in the distribution of financial direct assistance to tourism workers amounting to 5,000 pesos. And I think this was done in 2 batches in partnership with the Department of Labor and Employment. Part of the provision of adequate social services was also the access to various trainings and online webinars, which were attendance to which was free of charge. And we made sure that there were in-demand sessions to help build capacity and confidence among our tourism workers in terms of being able to keep their work. Fourth, we endeavored to enhance our marketing, the market and product development efforts in partnership with the DOT, our regional offices of the DOT, and also our market offices in the 16 posts that we have across the globe. There was, of course, sustained and timely and efficient institutional support that we provided to stakeholders. And the pillar that weaves all of these 5 other pillars would be the rolling out of the effective strategic communications program and plan. So see that communication is central to all the implementation of the different pillars of the TRRP. The TPB in particular actually helped in the initial response efforts staged by the DOT. Early in the pandemic, we provided essential kits, the travel hygiene kits, also the protective personal equipment, the PPEs to our frontliners. Then we also gave packs, food packs, and hygiene kits to stranded tourists who were transiting through the airports. Then we also complemented the efforts of the OT in staging sweeper flights so that we could rescue stranded tourists in the different destinations who were caught by the lockdowns. And then we also provided flexible vouchers, which stranded domestic tourists could use either for accommodation, for food, or their meals and other requirements like transport, to help them return to their respective homes. As I mentioned, part of the TRRP initiative was the formulation of health and safety protocols. And as early as May 2020, the DOT led the formulation of the protocols for the various sectors across the industry. So we've had new normal protocols for our hotels, for our transport services, for dining facilities, for open attractions, tourist attractions, even for diving, for sun and beach destinations. So I mentioned diving also. So there are also protocols to be observed in the new normal. These protocols that we have developed in partnership with our stakeholders and other private sector partners were actually guided by globally established protocols that were formulated by the World Travel and Tourism Council, or the WTTC. So our issued protocols are globally compliant and adheres to global standards as well. And I hope that that also helps build confidence, because we have been able to formulate these protocols and roll them out. As I mentioned, the WTTC, which led the global-wide efforts of putting in the protocols for the various sectors, authorized the Philippines, granted us the use of the Safe Travel Stamp. This stamp is actually an imprimatur, a signal, brand, a mark that, okay, this particular user of the stamp has been found compliant with the health and safety protocols that we have put in place. As I speak today, there are 3 destinations, Boracay, Baguio, and Ilocos Norte, which have been granted the use of the Safe Travel Stamp. And there are 241 accommodation establishments, transport services, and other sectors within the tourism industry that have also been awarded the use of the Safe Travel Stamp by the Department of Tourism. And as I mentioned, the pandemic pause brought us a gift of realizing that sustainability is an effort, is a thrust that we all need to prioritize and work together on and sustain. So this is part of our new normal challenge of being able to explore the country and have fun, but at the same time practice sustainability actions. Many of the sustainability initiatives that the DOT has rolled out actually started even before the pandemic. But through the pandemic, we gained, a clearer lens of appreciating how important sustainable tourism really is. It is at the core of our tourism promotions effort. So a key program in 2019 that was launched through a grant and loan from the World Bank and ADB is called the Philippine Tourist Program. Tourist there is actually an acronym that stands for Transforming Communities Towards Resilient, Inclusive, and Sustainable Tourism Program. So this program helps us channel investments to develop or enhance infrastructure. For example, in Bohol, we want to build sewerage systems, or even in Boracay, we want to put up the waste management systems. And it traverses various elements of being able to enhance the products in a way that is inclusive, that brings stakeholders in the communities together so that they puts in place incentives for capacity building, among others, and of course, branding and promotions of these areas. There are, you will see here, the destinations that are initially covered by this tourist program, including Bohol, then Siquijor in Negros Occidental, which is part of Central Visayas. Then there's Siargao, which to me is quite timely, given how Typhoon Odette adversely affected the destination. Then, of course, there's Davao City for Region 11, El Nido in Mimaropa, and also Coron in Palawan. So there are 2 areas or sites for Palawan. Then the DOT also led the launch of the More Fun Forever campaign, which is actually dovetailed with our sustainability program. So the More Fun Forever, sinasabi natin, may forever. and one of those forever things that we need to enjoy is the more fun travel experience or tourism experience in the country. And how do we do that? So there are 3 guides or pillars for More Fun Forever campaign. One is, of course, the advocacy to promote responsible tourism. Second is to foster greater, adequate, 100% compliance with our environmental laws, rules, and regulations among our stakeholders, and to ensure that growth is achieved in an inclusive way so that whatever benefits we reap from the tourism activities, they are able to be felt. They are cascaded, they are actually shared by the members of our tourism stakeholders and actors in the different communities. The other sustainability program is called the SOS campaign. So SOS, of course, is the global, the universal acronym for, say, for emergency, call. And this is also akin to this program, because this is actually an emergency call to join the campaign to save our spots. So Save Our Spots leverage on influencers, on celebrities, on millennials, who in various campaign materials, video spots, would promote small acts of sustainability, like, managing your trash, do not do showers for a long time, and then using reef-friendly sunblock, recycling your materials, so not bringing in plastics, minimizing, if not totally eradicating the use of plastics in the destinations, bringing your own tumbler. So these are small acts that, when done together, collectively and sustained, will really save our spots, for the future generation of Filipinos. In 2020, the Tourism Promotions Board deemed it essential, or I should even say an imperative, to pivot with our strategic programs so that we could better respond to the emerging challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we adopted 3 strategies that were shared and approved by the Board of Directors of TPB, which begin with the adoption of smart tourism as a key strategy. This allows us to leverage on digital technologies and platforms so that we would be able to improve our processes or operations and better serve our customers. The second strategy was the pursuit of partnerships as the key pathways for sustaining various programs that we have launched, we continue to implement, and we plan to forge ahead. And the third strategy is the promotion of safe Bangon Turismo, which focuses on the various activities and projects that really aim to bring back our zest for domestic travel in a safe way. The smart tourism our reach and do our operations and programs more efficiently. So this was really geared to not just internally within the TPB improve our own processes and operations, but this was really primarily driven by our motivation to better serve our customers and our stakeholders. And of course, key to that was our check with our stakeholders. Many of our tourism officers at the different local government units said, COO, nako, TPB, help us, because they were not savvy in terms of doing digital marketing. So we had to roll out educational marketing programs to build their confidence and improve their skills to be able to do digital marketing. And in September 2020, we were a trailblazer in terms of shifting to still doing MICE events with a hybrid conduct of our FITEX in Bohol. And then in November 2020, we launched, in partnership with the DOT, the official travel app for the Philippines. So this is the app.philippines.travel. I hope you take time to download it, use it. Right now, it is informational. It is the hub for updates that guide our tourists in terms of what destinations are open, what have reopened, what are the protocols in place, what are the requirements when you need to visit one destination to another. So as I speak, this is being enhanced and upgraded so that we will be able to have it as a functionality, a way to interact with the users. So we want to put in a chatbot and allow also our users not just to get information from the app, but to also use the app for their booking, for actual creation of their itineraries, and to also serve as an electronic vault for all the documents like your RT-PCR result tests, your ano pa ba, vaccination card, so yung mga usual na nire-require, no? Health declaration forms and the QR codes so that you can have them in one icon in your mobile phones. As I mentioned, we have proudly staged FITEX even amidst the pandemic. The 2020 hybrid FITEX in Bohol, generated 122 buyers from 34 countries and allowed us to still mobilize about 42 million in terms of revenue. And last year, 2021, we sustained the hybrid conduct of FITEX and we conducted this in Subic and ASEA. There were 121 buyers from 32 countries. So there were like one less buyer, two less countries, but the generated revenue almost doubled, at 69 million. And then because we shifted to smart tourism, we adopted technology as an important tool for doing tourism promotions and marketing. So last year, we staged 2 sessions of what we call the Tourism and Technology Forum, enabling our delegates, 900 in the first batch, and then close to 3,000 people in the October batch, enabling them to appreciate how to use technology and digital platforms in the various aspects of their work, whether they were tour operators, travel agencies, marketing, tourism officers of the local government unit, among others. The on-demand sessions of about 30, the different modules, that generated about 30,000 views. So we actually achieved more in terms of viewership for the MICECon, which we did also in 2020 purely online, and then in 2021 it was on a hybrid mode. In 2020, this was what I was saying, that we had in fact a record high of delegates locally and from abroad, and there were close to 30,000 engagements in terms of messages in the community, and close to 2,000 virtual meetings that were attended by the delegates and also made more interesting by the different speakers from all over the world and within the Philippines. Last year's MICE Connect was held on a hybrid mode in Boracay, and it also, positioned Boracay not just as a leisure destination, but as a MICE destination as well. So even before we left Boracay, we actually generated 27 million worth of solid leads already. So there were contracts signed even before we left Boracay for various MICE events. And then through the pandemic, there were a number of initiatives that we implemented to ensure that we kept our communities, our tourists engaged, and to also, provide entertaining and fun ways by which to do travel virtually. So initially in April, we launched virtual tours of yung mga Visita Iglesia. We had virtual tours. And last year, we completed the various virtual tour videos of priority destinations, which we hope to make the list comprehensive this year also. Then we had our Viber stickers launched also last year. And then, of course, we had the travel bingo, which was received well and talagang demanded to be restaged. So we even had additional sessions towards the end of the year. So there were many ways by which we still were able to creatively promote different destinations by way of, being innovatively putting hindi pa tested pero through time nakita natin because they were directed at the desires of the travelers and the tourists, then they were a hit, and we were even able to succeed in continuously engaging our different tourists. And then in October, we finally launched the It's More Fun with You campaign, which was aimed at, what do you call this? Parang enticing pa more people to travel by being able to connect with them through this video, which I hope you will like.
Sabik sa'yo sa umaga at sa gabi, sa bawat minutong lumilipas, hinahanap-hanap kita, hinahanap-hanap kita. Sa isip at panaginip, bawat pagdiin ng tadhana, hanapin ka, hanapin ka, sabik sa'yo.
There. So we wanted the video to create that, longing for us to reconnect. And in this case, akala nyo love story, no? Love story nga, pero yung pala love story ng ating surfer with a surf dog, Tuna. And we're saying that as Filipinos, this is part of our culture, that we really enjoy traveling more if we are doing it with people whom we love or with our fur companions as well. So it's not limited to just people, but through because we were aware that through the pandemic, a lot of people actually got closer to their pets, no? And I hope you like that. Sorry. So moving on, the second strategy of forging partnerships as pathways allow the TPB to help our weavers community with the conduct of the Philippine Weavers Tourism and Trade Expo. We also launched our continuing tourism marketing education seminars. Then we sustained support for the various tourism association and stakeholders, yung ating ATOP, the PhilToa, the HSMA. So lahat yan, tinulungan talaga namin sa PPB. And we also, of course, sustained assistance to various local government units that were key destinations for our tourism. And we also implemented joint tourism projects with other national government agencies like the NCCA for the rebranding and enhancements of our airports, or with the BCDA, the DPWH for our wayfinder or signage programs, and the PIESA even for our the establishment of the concierge in the different destinations. Then I'm so proud and happy that the TPB membership program ironically grew through the pandemic. When I became CEO of TPB in February 2020, we had about 106 members. And last year, at the end of December, we grew this to 517. And we did this because we strengthened the connection with them by staging weekly members chat. So we have a Wednesday 3 p.m. habit of getting together online via Zoom. And last year, we staged 44 weekly meetings with 82 resource speakers. And this was really a platform for just keeping people updated on what's happening, keeping them inspired, because a lot of people were also getting depressed and were demotivated. So that really provided an avenue for cultivating the members' motivation to stay as a strong partner of TPB. Of course, you have known that we funded RT-PCR costs by way of subsidy. In 2020, it was a 50% subsidy both for PGH and our partner hospital, the Philippine Children's Medical Center. And towards the end of last year, we actually expanded the subsidy from 50% to 100%. So close to 60,000 domestic tourists have benefited from this. We rolled this out for a twofold reason. One was that, of course, we wanted to encourage travel. And if you're traveling as a family, sabi ko, ang mahal-mahal ang RT-PCR cost. So if there are 4 of you, like if you say 3,800 was the cost, then there are 4 people, that's almost 4,000. So sa RT-PCR pa lang gagastos ko na ng 16,000 pesos. So sabi namin, siguro maganda mag-subsidize tayo para maingganyo yung mga tao to travel with this subsidy. And of course, the second reason was that we wanted to ensure that people who were traveling were clear of the virus so that they don't serve as carriers of the virus to the destinations. So it protects both the travelers and also the host communities. And then the TPB also launched the Tourism Influencer Program to add attention to our marginalized communities like in Bukidnon, in Basilan, in Mindoro, in Puerto Galera, in Coron, so in Culion Island. So ito yung mga medyo hindi famous, but they offer a diverse product for our tourists. And we deemed it important to invest also in supporting the promotion of these destinations. So we tapped influencers, engaged them to develop the materials to support the promotion of these various destinations. And then last year, and we sustained these banner programs this year, we launched our, we call the banner or flagship programs, because the first one, Halal, is part of the Philippine Development Plan Thrust. So we want to promote our halal tourism, culinary tourism products to cater not just to Muslim tourists, but also to the rest of Filipinos who are conscious of the benefit of halal food that they eat. Then the other banner program is the promotion of Habi, or the weaving, woven products of the different weaving industries. And you will realize that many of these weaving communities are made or composed of women. And during the pandemic, sila talaga yung na-marginalized dahil walang market, walang access to selling, to yung mga produkto nila. And we exerted extra efforts to reach out to them and help in the continuous promotion of Habi. And of course, pandemya, so yung health ay primordial. So Hilom or healing as part of the wellness tourism program is something that the TPB also actively promotes. So makikita ninyo in this montage of pictures how we support, like, creatively making dresses out of the woven materials, cloth. Yeah, we have influencers like Catriona Gray, and we have our couturiers and our different artists, mga budding artists in the different regions put together other products made from ang materials nila, raw materials ay yung mga woven cloth of the different weaving communities. And then of course, we supported mga It's More Fun, yung EATS, or the Kaina thrust also of the Department of Tourism, to sustain awareness and appreciation for the different flavors that continue to entice our tourists both domestically and globally. And of course, marami tayong mga wellness destinations, mga spa, mga resorts that offer comprehensive wellness and hilom services, like yung ating traditional hilot. Nakikita nyo dyan yung, anong tawag dyan, yung tinatanggal yung lamig ng katawan. Minsan nagpapaganyan ako, kaya lang nagkakamark nga yung likod mo, no? And then of course, yung ating mga pampabeauty. So kahit pandemya, kailangan ay maganda pa rin tayo. So part pa rin yan ng wellness tourism initiatives. As I close, I end with what I started as a question that was often asked of me personally as COO of TPB. So how did we promote, how do we intend to continue promoting the Philippines in a time of COVID and even beyond? There are 3 C's that I would like to focus on and underscore, which I hope you also agree with. And the first one is creativity. So kailangan talaga we are 5 steps ahead of our competitors. We are 10 steps ahead of the requirements of the tourists. We have to be innovative. Hindi pwede yung pwede na, hindi pwede, matagal natin ginagawa yan. No, no, no. We really have to make room for new ways of doing things, for being able to innovate and enhance the products that we have, and also the ways by which we promote. No? So yan, nandyan yung mga chatbot, nandyan yung social media platforms, yung Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So we really need to be able to leverage on those platforms to be able to creatively position the Philippines as a preferred, safe, fun, and sustainable destination for travel. Then the second C is the constant need for effective and strategic communication. Alam ko na marami nagrereklamo sa atin, ano ba yan? Kulang kasi ang information, hindi malinaw, hindi timely. So yan, all the more that we realize the imperative for communication to be strategic, to be timely, to be comprehensive at all levels. And finally, hindi po matatawaran. We will not be able to do this by ourselves. We will not succeed if we promote the Philippines as an island, acting also as an island. So we need to really converge, put our efforts together, and harness each gift, each talent that you have. And I call on you, our partners from the academe, to actually join us, converge with us, so that together we will be able to sustain the efforts to promote the Philippines as a fun, safe, and sustainable destination. As I thank you, I reiterate our gratitude to you on behalf of the Tourism Promotions Board for this opportunity to have this conversation with you today. And I may not be able to join you for the Q&A given another engagement that we have committed to, but rest assured of our continuing prayers for your safety, your health, and also I reiterate our appeal for you to converge with us, to partner with us, so that when our destinations reopen again, when napagod na rin si COVID, then we will be able to travel again. Because as we say, it is more fun with you. Maraming salamat po and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Domingo, for that excellent presentation. I'm sure our participants took away that valuable information. Let us now proceed to our second speaker, who will be introduced by our ever-supportive course instructor in International Tourism and Hospitality Diplomacy, Dr. Christina N. Caluza.
Our speaker this morning is presently the Philippine Ambassador to New Zealand, concurrently to Cook Island, Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga. He joined DFA in 1990, served as a DFA Assistant Secretary for United Nations and International Organization, and was posted to Philippine missions to the UN in New York and in Geneva, and the Philippine Embassy in Saudi Arabia. His career focus is on multilateral, humanitarian, security, and migration diplomacy, and receives an award in the Presidential Gawad Mabini rank of Dakilang Kamagong in 2016 for his work with the UN. Finished his foreign degrees in BS Foreign Service from Georgetown University and had master's degree in law from Geneva Institute of International Humanitarian Law and Human Rights. Master's degree in Masters of Arts in Philippine Studies in UP Diliman. Master's degree in National Security Administration, National Defense in College of the Philippines, class of 2005, wherein he received a silver academic medal. And finished his Doctor of Philosophy in Criminology in College of Criminology. Mr. Domingo is also the founder of the Diplomatic League in 2014, a DFA youth and volunteerism engagement platform. Let us all welcome in our virtual stage Mr. Jesus Gary S. Domingo.
Kia ora. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Jesus Domingo, Philippine Ambassador to New Zealand and accredited to the Cook Islands, Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga. So it is my great honor and pleasure to be with you today, dear students of the tourism program of the Philippine Women's University. So I will be presenting my PowerPoint on tourism diplomacy. So let's get started. I'll share the screen. Okay, so the title of my presentation is Tourism Diplomacy for the 3R's, Reinforcing Partnerships, Rebuilding Trust, and Recovering Industry. Okay, so what are my overall views on Philippine tourism? Well, I would say that first, Filipinos are world-class tourism professionals. We are found all over the world in hotels, resorts, airlines, cruise lines, clinics, restaurants, you name it, we are there and we are sought after. Now, the Philippines is a top global tourism destination. We have among the world's best beaches, wonderful people, fantastic attractions. However, we have lagged behind other ASEAN countries in tourism promotion. And why is that? So I'll share with you some of my views on that. So one is we are, as a people, individually talented, but we are not necessarily entrepreneurial, unlike our other Asian neighbors. We tend to be passive. Tourism needs aggressive and consistent promotion. So we've seen poor continuity, with due respect to the campaigns and promotions of the government. We had a great slogan, Wow Philippines. It was changed for a while as Pilipinas kay ganda, then we had the genius, it's more fun in the Philippines, but there was a consideration to change it. Then because of the clamor, we returned back to it's more fun in the Philippines. But look at other countries, more consistent. Malaysia, truly Asia, for example. Nakakalito. And unfortunately, we tend to pursue obsolete marketing methods. For example, there's a lot of emphasis still on traditional trade fairs, holding conferences in hotels. But really, the battle is in social media. And we need to catch up with the times. But also, again, while we might have great destinations, our airlines, our airports, and infrastructure haven't been up to standard. But I would have to say, with great admiration for the Duterte administration, a lot has been done with build. But we have a lot of catching up to do. But I commend the government, nevertheless, for these great efforts in upgrading. And again, while we have many individual talented TikTokers and whatnot, we still really need to enhance our social media and internet presence. And one of the things I think is a bit ridiculous are tourism campaigns focused on overseas Filipinos, meaning getting them to come home. They're going to come home anyway. So we need to really focus our energy, our efforts on resources on getting foreign tourists to come to the Philippines. So we need to capitalize on the inherent and unique strengths of the Philippines, which are different from our competition. But also there's that element. Sometimes we have a poor media image, but especially, for example, with our natural disasters and controversies regarding some of our programs in government, but that's beyond our control. All right. Now, what is the best way to promote Philippine tourism? Have foreigners rave and talk about their actual visits to the Philippines. So, like Kiwis, or what the nickname of New Zealanders, they will believe and be more convinced by fellow Kiwis talking about their whitewater rafting, their handling of the tarsier, their hearing the greatest musicians they ever heard, coming from them through social media, person to person. They will believe their own countrymen and women more than they would believe us. And again, we have to have an aggressive, not passive approach. This is the thing. I think Filipinos, we have this tendency to expect people to come to us. We should go to them. Okay. Now, we also need to have a deeper understanding of Filipino nature. And I think it is really misleading to classify ourselves as Asian. We're surrounded by Asian countries which have a very clear-cut identity. Like, Vietnamese is Vietnamese, Korean is Korean, Chinese are Chinese. Paanong Pinoy? We are so diverse, and we should capitalize on diversity, not the uniformity of other cultures. And the best way to understand it is we are like a itlog na maalat or itlog na pula. Like other nationalities are pretty much like one thing, like Japanese, wasabi, Koreans, kimchi. So we should accept and realize that our identity is like an egg in that our core, yung pula or the yolk, is Austronesian or Pacific Islander. Our egg white is Spanish. Our eggshell is American. We still have Asianness, but it's more like the alat or the saltiness or the color of the surface. Deep down, we have strong Spanish, Pacific, and American roots. There are positive and negative elements, and this is something I can invite you to another talk on how is that so and what is the effects. So the result of this very unique combination is that we are outstanding as individuals, professionals, and tradespersons, very strong in faith, education, family, but we tend not to do very well in groups. We have political, social disunity, and we tend to be weaker in entrepreneurship and business, unlike our other Asian counterparts. So really, tourism is a business. So we need to improve our sense of being businessmen and businesswomen. So how do we, nevertheless, given that what we have, how can we promote Philippine tourism? We can focus on our strengths. As I said, we're not just Asian. We also have those elements of Pacific Islander, Spanish, and American. And the thing that really made me realize Pacific Islander is at our core is I'm also, not just Ambassador New Zealand, but Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, and Cook Islands. Do you know what their most popular TV shows are? Filipino teleserie. Why? Because the Pacific Islanders identify with us. It's to them, it's just like looking at a mirror. The same very warm, friendly, close to family, God-fearing, but at the same time full of intrigue and family drama and this social disunity. But nevertheless, the Pacific Islands are a key component. And again, the islands are a very popular, one of the most popular destinations. We can't deny also our Spanish heritage. My name, Jesus Domingo, but also American. I'm speaking to you in English. My nickname is Gary. We're fanatics of basketball. So anyway, we really need to capitalize, although 2021 is over, let us not forget this is where we were, where Magellan, where the Europeans, the Caucasians, realized the world was round. You can argue that globalization began with us. So let us capitalize on being the place, the country where the world became one through the first circumnavigation. We're Asia's first and leading Catholic or Christian country. We are deeply English-speaking. And once upon a time, we were called the Pearl of the Orient, the Madrid or Paris of Asia, or Little America. Instead of just buying purely Asian, no, let us not throw away our great hybrid global heritage, which is American and European and Pacific, not just Asian. And again, since we're not that Asian, we should avoid being packaged together with other ASEAN or Asian countries because they will look better than us in certain categories. And it tends to obscure our more unique European, American, and Pacific closeness and heritage. So, and the way that other countries do things, like Koreans with their K-pop, they are very systematic countries, very logical. We are emotional. We are loving, kind. We're not which work great for business promotion. But in terms of hospitality, our strength is with heart, not with mind and muscle. So also the thing is, we have to decide, what are we trying to promote here? Are we trying to promote people coming to the Philippines, or are we trying to promote our airline? So this is an irony. And this is one incident that I'd like to share with due respect to Philippine Airlines, is that who will bring in more New Zealanders to visit the Philippines? Because, okay, here's the issue, that there can, long story short, there can only be one air route, direct air route between New Zealand and the Philippines. At first, it was going to be Air New Zealand, but Philippine Airlines nudged them out. But now, with due respect to Philippine Airlines, which is the airline New Zealanders are much more likely to ride, and which has a much better presence to promote? It's New Zealand, New Zealand's own airline. So this is one of the considerations, that really the key thing is bringing people to the Philippines. So we have to leverage the strengths of foreign airlines and cruise lines. Of course, COVID has delayed everything, but let us prepare when COVID finally lifts, the pandemic. We are delivered from this scourge. Okay. Now, the other thing is, again, we cannot expect to compete in the same categories that other Asian countries do. In time, perhaps, but for now, let us focus on particular niches: nature backpackers, Catholic pilgrimages. Well, world-class beaches. We have the best beaches in the world, scuba and surfing. The best musicians, our performance talent. We have a Spanish and American heritage. And then the nexus with other areas of business, healthcare and retirement. Remember, we have the most sought after nurses and caregivers and nannies in the world, especially in this time of COVID. So why not visit the source and also entice foreigners to retire in the Philippines and seek healthcare? And one of the saddest things is, who dominates health tourism in Southeast Asia? It's Thailand, but a lot of the plastic surgeons and the nurses are actually Filipina, but in Thailand. Then education, English language study. But, at least, for example, the Koreans have discovered. And so there are many Korean colonies that have sprung out on English language schools across the country. And so we are a great, more economic alternative to study English. But at least on that, this is being really picked up and promoted. Then finally, one very interesting niche, and I have to thank former Secretary of Tourism, Mina Gabor, for promoting farm tourism. Also something we've been trying to promote here in New Zealand. And Secretary Gabor has the International School of Sustainable Tourism. And perhaps some of you are familiar. I think you should really engage with her, if you aren't already, on promoting farm tourism, which is also a sector which we need to bolster. Now, I may not have time to fully discuss the particular nature of these particular niches, but I'm sure already you are. So I just wanted to flag that we should focus on niche and specialized tourism overseas. Okay. Other things is that, of course, going a little more in depth, is that our music and musicians are universally regarded as Asia's best singers and performers. Now, one thing also I don't agree with is using food as, it's nice to promote, but don't expect Filipino food to click the same way that Thai or Vietnamese or Korean has. Because again, to promote food, it's not about how good the food is, to be frank. It's how you promote it. And again, you need an aggressive entrepreneurial approach, not, with due respect, celebrity chefs and food week at a hotel. And the problem is, it also gets confusing when you have celebrity chefs or food weeks, they put their own spin on fusion. It's not consistent. Why is Thai, Malaysian, Vietnamese food so popular? They almost it's something like a McDonald's type approach. They have standard menus. They have very clean and efficient, not flashy, but efficient restaurants. But one thing that I found a little strange was this push to standardize the recipe of adobo. Well, I think it's better to standardize a menu rather than just a standard for an individual dish, which could also be controversial. Now, let us emphasize the beauty and hospitality of Filipinos. And I really commend DOT's recent series of commercials that basically their slogan was, when you come to the Philippines, you're coming to family. But that's not enough. Yes, we're creating the mood, but foreign tourists will want to see, well, what are the exact spots I can visit and all that. So, and again, as I said, we have to separate promotion of Philippine tourism with promotion of our airlines. To be quite frank, it's all about bringing in more foreigners. They're more comfortable with their own airlines. Now, we also need better interagency, inter-stakeholder coordination continuity, but this is a challenge all across Philippine government. And again, maximize social media. Okay, now, what are some of my concrete programs? Well, there's not much we could, it was very heartbreaking. Just before COVID set, we were all ready to go to lead this joint New Zealand and Australian tourism and business mission, in coordination with our tourism attaches and trade attaches in Sydney, because they cover us in New Zealand. But nevertheless, what are we doing even before the onset of COVID is that our greatest asset otherwise are our 11 million potential volunteer ambassadors. We have 80,000 Filipinos in New Zealand. So we can train them, and we have been training them to be volunteer ambassadors, or we call VAMBA. And I invite you to look at the hashtag VAMBA, or you could invite me to talk more about. I'd like to invite you guys to also be VAMBA. So what is that all about? It's having our individual OFWs and overseas Filipinos who have become New Zealand citizens or permanent residents to promote our tourism visiting the Philippines man to man, person to person, and to promote, very simply, their own hometowns, their favorite destinations. Like one thing that I'm very proud of are my shoes. We have a bit of Imelda in all of us, and that's a thing. Leverage the image of Imelda and her thousands of shoes, and I said, look, you can have custom-made shoes in Cubao than going to Marikina. Even in Quiapo, I have a suke. I won't tell you. Well, maybe next time I'll tell you the secret of who is my suke in Quiapo to make shoes. You can get custom-made shoes very inexpensively, for example. And that's just shoes. I could also talk about my scuba, surfing. But what is most passionate is my hometown or their hometowns. I have several hometowns, my father's mother's side. You talk about our fiestas back home. Or my wife, she's from Angeles, right next to San Fernando, the Christmas capital of the world. Now, also, so you talk with the people you meet every day, your friends, your neighbors, your own family, if you're married to the locals here, your classmates, your workmates. And oftentimes, because again, the Thais, for example, are very good at being systematic in business, you can find these packages being readily promoted by New Zealand travel agencies. Do you see Filipinos much? No, because again, why are Thais and Malaysians more represented in foreign travel agencies? Because they're very systematic about business. I tell you what, okay. Now, there was a very good campaign a few years back called Bring Home a Friend. So that's spirit. But I like the slogan now. When you visit the Philippines, you're coming to family. Okay. Now, I'd like to also, I'm winding up now with this thought that, however, I commend you, the students on tourism, HRM, and related fields of Philippine Women's University. You're joining the core of the hundreds of thousands of maybe even millions of individual Filipinos, overseas Filipinos, OFWs, who are very successful in tourism and hospitality, HRM all over the world. And I'm confident many of the graduates of PWU are among them. So we're found all over the world in, actually working in the front desks as concierge, as tour guides, resorts, cruise lines, airlines, restaurants, clinics. So we're actually doing a great job of promoting and supporting the tourism of other countries. So individual Filipinos have proven to be more successful in global tourism than the Philippines as a tourism destination. So Filipinos, but not quite yet the country of the Philippines, are already a tourism superpower.
Our next speaker finished BSHRM at the Roche School of Hotel Management, Switzerland.
and he had his general manager course at Cornell University. He is managing the 6-star Grand Hyatt Hotel in Hong Kong and also the general manager of Acacia Hotel. He is an awardee at 17th Mabuhay Gold and Hospitality Superstars of the Philippines. Currently, he is the board of director at Chain de Retasio, vice president at Hotel Restaurant Association of the Philippines, and vice president at Hotel Restaurant Cafe of the Philippines. He is also the founder and the CEO of Horrigan Hospitality. Let us all welcome Mr. Bobby Horrigan.
Thank you very much, Philippine Women's University, for the hospitality section of the school for inviting me. It's a great honor and pleasure. Thank you so much. This is going to be an exciting webinar for everyone. The 3R's, reinforcing partnerships, rebuilding trust, and recovering industry. What I can tell you, it's been a very challenging last 21 months because of this pandemic, and God is so good that we're still surviving. The industry was hit hard, and that means the hotels, the airlines, the restaurants, basically the whole tourism industry. But it's not. We don't even see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are actually in the end of the tunnel, and we're there by the light. And so we're looking at a recovery of, I would say, starting March. Local tourism will be traveling all around the country, and international tourists starting January 2023. The last quarter of 2021, we saw tourism get back to almost pre-pandemic levels in Cebu. Right before the typhoon hit, occupancies were doing quite well. Davao, last November, December, hotels were hitting 70-80%. And in Metro Manila, most of the hotels are in either quarantine status or multi-use. And so we've been doing quite well. We're one of the only nations that have a OWA sector and ROFs, returning overseas Filipinos. And this OWA sector has helped us, and we'd like to thank the government for paying all of these room nights in hotels for our Filipinos coming back. As you know, we have 10 million overseas workers. 5.8 million of them work in the hospitality industry. So when they come back for vacation or in the end of their contract, usually their contracts are 2 to 3 years. And so when they come back, they have to quarantine. And so they're called off-signers. And when they go back abroad, they're called on-signers. So we're very blessed to have all of these overseas workers been helping us in the hotel industry. I know it's an exciting time for all of you, because you'll be graduating very soon, either in March, or others will be graduating in a year, 2-3 years from now. I'd like to really congratulate each and every one of you. So in advance, congratulations, because I know when you graduate and you start to work, you're going to be very, very successful. So you're going to be all the vice presidents, the presidents, the GMs of hotels and restaurants, and you'll be owners, and you'll be all the CEOs and CFOs, COOs. So congratulations in advance to all of you. You have a bright future ahead. I know a lot of you are going to ask, why should I continue hospitality? Isn't it a bad industry right now to join in? Well, I can tell you, I personally been in this industry professionally for 30 years, and it's an exciting industry. And the reason why I joined this industry 30 years ago is because, my parents, wala kaming pera, and my parents would tell me, would you like to travel? Would you like to meet people or eat the best food? And I said, yes. And so they said, tourism is really the best industry. And so I joined because I really wanted to travel all around the world, attend the biggest conferences and conventions. and eat all the good food, yung mga 1, 2, 3-star Michelin restaurants. You'll be eating that. Nasasawa nga eating all of this buffet and all of this good food. And actually ako, on my day off, I would just like to eat Jollibee or McDonald's. And so it's because you'll be seeing the best hotels. You'll be eating in them. You'll be comparing them to the hotels, the cruise ships that you'll be working in, and the restaurants that you'll be working in. And it's very, very exciting times. You'll meet celebrities, and you'll meet a lot of people in this industry, and that's why I joined this industry. And thank God we're all safe right now, and it's an honor and privilege to be telling you some tips. I'll give you some tips this afternoon, and it'll be hopefully beneficial for all of you. And if you learn one or two things today, and I'll be very, very excited. And so the hotel industry in the last pre-COVID in 2019, the local tourism was very, very high. We had 113 million local tourists, and it was actually 113 million is a lot. It's actually more than Singapore or Malaysia. And international tourists, we were 8.7 million international tourists coming into the Philippines in 2019. And I can tell you, the tourists that we have, they spend a lot of money. They spend $100, $150 a day. Unlike you have countries like Thailand, where you have a lot of tourists coming in. You have 38 million, 40 million international tourists coming into their countries. However, a lot of them spend $10, $5, $15. They stay in hostels and places like this. Of course, they stay in nice hotels as well, several. However, our tourists are 5.8 million. There are 8.9 million tourists that come to our country, spend good money. You're going to be graduating. Our industry needs people like you, because you're Generation Z or millennials, if I'm not mistaken, and you're very techie, very savvy when it comes to technology, and these are the type of people that we would really need. It's all of you. The hotel industry, the hospitality industry in general, is waiting for people like you. And Filipinos are probably in the top 3 or the best people in hospitality, in my view, in my opinion, in the world. You have the Thais, who are very good. The Thai people are very good in hospitality. However, majority of them don't speak English. You have the Japanese, who are very, very hospitable, very, very nice, and they're very, very good. However, sometimes they're in the box. They don't know how to go the extra mile. And, I have an experience when I was in Japan, and it was very, very cold, and we were ordering some hot chocolate, and we wanted to go inside the restaurant. We were outside in the counter. Meron parang silang takeaway. So they have like a takeout. So we were ordering hot chocolate, and we wanted to go in the restaurant. And I remember the waitress goes, no, you stay outside, because you only order beverage, only drinks, so outside. Inside you order food. And so we said, no, but it's so cold outside. But I can tell you, if that was Filipinos, they'll say, gusto niyong pumasok? O sige, pasok kayo. They'll even give us free peanuts or even what do you call that? Those mga chicharon and all that, so for free. And that's how the Filipino hospitality is. We're very, very gracious, and we're warm. We're one of the only countries now, when we're eating our meals and we see other people pass by, we always say, kain na. And I don't think any other nationality does things like that. So we're very warm-hearted, and our hospitality is in a different level. the booking pace for hotels, for cruise ships, for restaurants. Before, people book in 1 year in advance, 2 years in advance for their weddings, for their birthday parties, yung mga social events, yung mga meetings nila 6 months in advance. What we see right now is it's very, very last minute. Lahat ng reservations is very last minute. They do it 1 month before, 1 week, or even a few days for their staycation, weddings, and all that. The main reason is because of the restrictions, and so it's not just the restrictions with the IATF, with the guidelines of the DOH and BOQ and all of that. It's really restrictions worldwide, and so Filipinos, a majority of the people are not traveling because they don't want to get stuck in other countries, and it's very, very expensive to get stuck in Europe. I remember some people going to Spain recently and to France. Wow, they were stuck there for 1 or 2 months. They couldn't get back because of all the restrictions. And if you're coming from a red country, it's better now. But before, when you're coming from a red country, grabe, you can't even come back, kasi you have to go to another country, quarantine for a couple of weeks, and then you come back, and you have to be coming back from a green listed country. So a lot of challenges. So the hotel industry was impacted, and the tourism industry was impacted a lot. However, the first type of segments of our industry that started coming back was exclusive places and exclusive islands, exclusive resorts that had villas. So people would stay in a villa. They would stay in a villa, and they would just order all their meals in the villa. They would swim pag may plunge pool. They would just swim there, and they didn't want to be talking to other people. People were going to countries like Maldives and Seychelles and Fiji kasi they wanted to go to countries that have limited tourists, and it's very, very exclusive. Now, it's almost 2 years since the pandemic started. We see a lot of our resorts and the hotels occupancies go up. It went up from single occupancy, single digit, naging teens, naging 20s, 30s, 50s. Wow. Right before Christmas, the hotels were doing very, very well at 70, 80%. And I myself, I have a company, a management company, and we run hotels around the Philippines, and from north all the way from Baguio to NCR to Cebu and Bacolod, Iloilo, Davao, all the way. And we've seen the occupancy of our hotels go up. Now, aside from the hotel segment, within the hotel segment, what we see that was doing very, very well during this pandemic was the extended stay. These are hotels that cater for long-staying guests. So I can give you a few names here in Manila. A few names of hotels would be like Ascot or Oakwood or Discovery, Premia, and these type of hotels, they cater for longer staying guests. The rooms are much larger. So this segment did very, very well during the pandemic, kasi people that that are working here in Calabarzon, for example, they needed a place to stay in for weeks in a time, so they decided to stay in these type of hotels rather than staying in apartment buildings. Branding is very, very important for all of us in this industry, and especially now. It's because people that are coming to the hotels, they want to feel safe. They want to know what chemicals are you using, for example, whether you're using Johnson Diversey, Ecolab. Who are you partnered up? Are you partnered with HACCP, Food Shop? Who are you partnered up with? Are your rooms clean? Are your rooms disinfected? Are you using HEPA filters? Are you using UV lights to kill this bacteria and this COVID virus? So branding is playing a big role when it comes to your hotel, and it's clean marketing. It has to be. You have to show your customers and your guests that we're doing everything so that you are safe. Before it was all about how good is your food, the branding on your food. Are you part of Michelin or San Pellegrino or Mille Guide and all that? But now it's all about how clean and safe is your hotel, right? But of course, we all know that it's number one is location. The number one is Wi-Fi, your Wi-Fi speed, and number two is location, and number three is your bathroom and your bed experience. But before, like 20, 30 years ago, it was always about how good how the location of your hotel, how good is your security, how good was certain services. Nowadays it has shifted. It's all about how clean your hotel is, and is your Wi-Fi good, and things like that. So other things during this pandemic, other things that were exciting to know is all about technology. Certain hotels are using robots to deliver the room service, or to deliver the food in the outlets. And of course, you're all going to ask me, is that going to replace me? Do I have a job when I graduate? Maniwala kayo, you will have, believe you me, you will all have jobs when you graduate. It's like the airline industry is always way advanced compared to the hotel industry. And look at the airlines; they still have the stewardess and the steward serving food. They still have the pilots to fly the airlines, even though a plane can take off and land, all the way to the type of braking, if it's a hard landing or soft braking. The computer can do all of that. However, they still need pilots. So with us in the hotel industry, we will still need people always. So don't worry, and don't feel bad that you're not going to have a job when you graduate. When you all graduate, they're all going to have jobs waiting for you, and I'm going to give you some tips right now of how to be successful, because you're going to say, baka hindi ako magaling, hindi ako makukuha ng trabaho. When I give you these tips, trust me, every employer here in this country or even abroad would like to hire you. Okay, so don't worry. You will all be very, very, you'll be very, very comfortable in a very good job when you graduate. And please follow my tips. So I'm going to give you my tips right now to be very, very successful. But before I do the tips, please, when you finish this webinar and this conference today, please go home and be with your parents and whoever's taking care of you, whether it's your parents or grandparents, yung mga magulang nyo or mga lola nyo. You hug them, and then you tell them, thank you very much for giving me an education in Philippine Women's University, because you're going to be very, very successful. Kasi madami akong alam na I know quite a number of people that had to work very, very hard, including me. Had to work 2 times or 3 times harder than a normal person. That was very smart, that's from Dean's Lister, or nag-graduate ng summa cum laude, salutatorian, and all that. So, and I know people who do not even have a high school or college degree, and they became very, very successful in this industry. So, kayo, graduate kayo, you have this college degree, and so please, you use it wisely, and please have big dreams. I remember when I was young, I grew up in Pasig, and I went to school in Mandaluyong, and my dream was just to become a driver of a alam mo yung parang Uber. That was my dream, and then I surpassed that. God was so good and gave me bigger things in life, and I dreamt even bigger and bigger, and He gave me more and more, and I can tell you, He will give you whatever you dream for, and of course you have to work hard. So here are my tips. My tips to be very, very successful in this hospitality industry. Number 1 is hard work and discipline. When they say 7 o'clock in the morning, you have to be there in your meeting, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, be there on time. But you have to work hard. Very, very successful people in the top 20 richest in the Philippines. Several of them are my clients. We manage and consult for them for their hotels and resorts. And I can tell you, nagtatrabaho sila sa Sabado, sa Linggo, sa holiday. They all work hard. So hard work and discipline, number 1. Number 2, passion. Passion with grit. Linagay ko na grit kasi grit means sustainable. You have to sustain that passion. Some people kasi are passionate. After 1 year, hindi na. Nagtrabaho sila, nagalit lang yung boss, aalis na sila. May boyfriend, girlfriend sila, after 2 months, 3 months, ayaw na nila. So, but you have to have grit. You have to be passionate. I've been in this industry 50 years. 30 years professionally. And I've been married to my wife for 22 years. And so I would want to do 22 more years, God willing. So ganun talaga, you need passion with grit, number 2. Number 3, positive attitude. Everything positive. When you're positive, positive things happen to you. Pag negative ka, negativity will come. But if you're always positive, you have a yes attitude, everything's a yes, good things will happen. I always tell my employees, I have about 2,000 employees around the Philippines, and I always tell all of them, kailangan yes lahat. Okay? They only know a customer, only know the customer, the guest would want to hear, even me. The only no we'd want to hear is no problem. Everything is a yes. Kailangan positive yung attitude natin. Number 4 is mapagkumbaba. It's humility. Whether you get an award or whether you're the smartest person of your school, Dean's Lister, you're still humble. Humility is the number 1 virtue you have to have. Whether in life you will make 100,000, you will make 1 million or 10 million or even more. You will make that, trust me. Pero you need to be the same person. You need to be the same person where you started. You have to have your head in your shoulder, okay? And you have to have your feet on the ground. So always be humble. Number 5, you have to have brains. I was never the smartest person, so I had to work double time, triple time. Kasi sinasabi ko, yung matatalino out there, grabe sila. Ako, hindi ako matalino, but I have to work hard and all that. Pero now in life, I accomplish a certain thing a certain level in my life. Yung ginagawa ko, I hire very, very smart people kasi alam ko, pag matalino ka, ibang level. You will go up in the ladder very, very fast. So all the people who are very, very smart, congratulations, work hard, be humble, work hard. And the people who are not that smart and who are barely passing and all that, well, welcome. I was like you before, but do not give up hope because you will be very, very successful. Next is integrity, integridad. Your parents gave you a very, very good name, very clean name, and please don't destroy it. So integrity, very important. Next is connections and networking. Use your connections, link up with people in LinkedIn, for example, or Facebook, and hang around with people who are very, very successful and who are better than you. So please don't hang out with people who are drug addicts and people who are not doing anything in life. Please. Because if you hang out with successful people, you will eventually become successful. Next is grooming, and I have a saying, you have to look good to feel good to be good. So you have to look good, and ako, kasi hospitality industry, talagang the people doesn't want to see people with pierced earrings everywhere in your nose, all around, and tattoos everywhere. Ayaw nila, the customers are gonna feel scared, di ba? Okay lang kung celebrity ka, kung Kevin Durant ka, or di ba? Or you're a famous singer and all that, baka pwede pa. Pero us, with the hospitality tourism industry, it's better not. I mean, one of the best chefs in the world is Gordon Ramsay. You have Alan Ducasse, Joel Robuchon, and all of them. Pero like Gordon Ramsay, you don't really see him with so many tattoos all over. So you have to look good. Kasi if the other saying is, if you look bad, you will feel bad and you'll be bad. So number 9 is helping people. Always help people because it'll come back 100 times, 1,000 times. It'll come back. 10 is empathy. So aside from IQ, lahat kayo, kung may IQ kayo, you have to have naman EQ. EQ is very important. Empathy, right? You have to feel for the person. That famous line of Maya Angelou is like, people will not remember what you tell them, what you do for them. They will not remember that. You can do something for somebody every day, or you say something good about them, they will forget it. But if you will make them feel special, if you make them feel like a celebrity, or you make them feel like a royalty and all that, you always make them feel good, they will always remember that. So remember empathy, okay? And another line for the boys out there who know basketball, there's a line of Kevin Durant, a famous line, right? Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. So even if you're talented pero you're lazy, walang mangyayari sa buhay mo. And don't ever blame na kasi yung mga magulang ko hindi mayaman, kasi yung education ko hanggang dyan lang, wala akong masters, or I've never gone to a school abroad and all that. Don't think that. Trust me, I meet and I've met a lot of successful people na walang high school degree, college, pero grabe how they work hard. Okay, so you remember kayo may college degree, right? And so remember, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. So remember that. Don't think na porque talented ako, smartest ako sa high school and college, and I'll be very successful. It doesn't work like that. You have to show your worth and you have to work hard. Okay? So those are the 10 tips that I gave you. However, the most important tip, yung 10 na yan, there's one more that you have to add to make you very, very successful in life, whether you're studying in your last years of college, or whether you're graduating and you're going out in the real world. Remember those tips that I mentioned, those 10, but the most important is to God be all the glory. When you do everything for His glory and you work hard for Him and you put Him in the center of your life and everything that you do, He will make you successful. Trust me. All your dreams, you're going to dream big. And whatever it is that you dream and you're passionate about, He will make it happen. So I'd like to thank you. I gave you a little synopsis of what's going on in the hotel industry. It's coming back very, very quick. So don't worry. When you graduate in March, or if you graduate 1, 2, 3 years from now, you're all going to have jobs waiting for you. This tourism industry is very exciting because it's the biggest industry in the world. In the Philippines, it's 12% of our GDP. That's going higher. It'll eventually be like Thailand and Malaysia, like 20%. So it's very, very big. It's very exciting. And I personally, if I had to do my life all over again, I wouldn't do anything else. I would pick the hotel industry all over again. My kids are teenagers and they're graduating very soon, and I've been discussing with them to be in the hotel industry. So hopefully I will see all of you one of these days in a hotel, or you're applying with me, or I see you abroad in cruise ships or in hotels abroad, or in the airline industry. It's a small industry. So thank you very much for having me, Ms. De Solo. Thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for an informative and comprehensive discussion. I know that our participants are very eager to ask a lot of questions to our esteemed speakers. So to facilitate our open forum, may we now call Ms. Criza Marie Francisco.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Now the floor is open for the Q&A session. Now we are going to answer all the questions submitted during today's presentation. So let's proceed to the next part of this Q&A session. Now this question is for Mr. Bobby Hargan. This is from a tourism student from Mindoro State University. His name is Prince Jerome Cuenca.
Mabuhay, I'm Prince Jerome Cuenca, third-year student taking up Bachelor of Science in Tourism Management at Mindoro State University. Here's my question. Given that innovation has become more of an obligation than an advantage in tourism and hotel industry, how can we address tourists' fears about the security of their information?
Well, information nowadays that's put in our servers and that's put in the cloud, or it's in hidden in the back office, it's very, very secured compared to many years ago, where just, lying information and business calling cards, and information was just lying, and people can just look at it and easily get that information and send it to people. Sometimes when you have OJTs or employees that have quit or left the hotel, they would write certain things down, or they would take pictures and send it to their friends, or send it maybe to even other hotels and all that. Nowadays, with the Data Privacy Act, you cannot do that, because if you do things like that, you will be fined, or you'll put in imprisonment. So it's very, very, very tough nowadays. And so tourists shouldn't have fears about the information that they give to hotels or airlines or the restaurants in the hospitality industry. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Horrigan. Now the next question is from Adria Jean Sevilla, a tourism student from Caraga State University, Cabadbaran City.
Good day, everyone. I am Adria Jean K. Sevilla from Caraga State University, Cabadbaran Campus. This question is for Sir Bobby. Sir, given that we're now living the new normal with the pandemic, how long do you believe the tourism and hospitality business will take to recover?
Well, I'm very, very optimistic, and I feel that we will be going to pre-COVID days, pre-COVID business by 2023. It will happen very, very quickly. I would say after this Omicron, hopefully by March, business will start to pick up. If you see the last quarter of 2021, wow, all the hotels in the Philippines were all of a sudden they were doing quite well, especially the month of December. I remember I was visiting hotels in Baguio, in Boracay, and in Davao, and all of these places were, wow, the people. Pre-pandemic, I'll tell you, business was that good. And so I really feel 2022 will be local tourism. 2023 will have a lot of international tourists coming in. And so 2023 to 2024, we will be back again, the tourism industry in the Philippines and even worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you again for answering that question, Mr. Bobby Horrigan. Now the last question is from Leonel de los Santos, a tourism student from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng San Pablo.
Good day everyone, my name is Leonel de los Santos from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng San Pablo. I would like to ask a question to Mr. Bobby Horrigan. What tip would you give towards the next generation of people who want to work in the tourism and hospitality industry?
Well, I gave my top 10 tips earlier. Always remember to work hard and be passionate, because if you work hard and you're passionate, you will be very, very successful in this business. But in the same time, you have to know how to laugh and how to enjoy yourself. So you have to work hard and play hard and have fun eating the best foods, traveling around the world, and meeting all types of people, whether it's royalty and it's businessmen or it's celebrities. Enjoy it. So those are my tips. Work hard and be passionate, and you'll be very, very successful. Thank you.
The question is for Ambassador Jesus Gary Domingo. This is from Charlie de los Santos, a tourism student from Philippine Women's University, Santa Cruz campus.
Hi, I'm Charlie May de los Santos. I'm from Philippines Women University, CDCEC, Santa Cruz, Laguna. And my question for Ambassador Gary Domingo, good day, sir, is how does the United Nations deal with countries who are not members of these intergovernmental bodies in terms of international relations?
And basically, I addressed that in our talk, but again, 3 main points. Figure out the strengths and weaknesses of your country and your target country. Every country is unique, so you can't really use a one-size-fits-all. And bottom line is we are a diverse country with those 4 elements. Yeah, we're Asian, but we're Pacific, we're Spanish, and we're American. And our target country, New Zealanders really love backpacking and beach. So we should focus on those. foreign government, okay, so when we talk about diplomatic relationship, I'm talking, well, diplomacy can cover government to government or people to people. So this is more the people to people dimension. Now, on the government to government dimension, there's really only so much the government, I mean, let's say the New Zealand government can help on. But anyway, we're talking about government, big business. I think the key thing is getting their airlines to fly directly to the Philippines. That's the key. Then again, as I said, getting the interest of foreign citizens and getting Kiwis to rave about the Philippines through social media to their day-to-day contacts would be key.
Thank you for that answer, Ambassador Domingo. Now, the next question is from another tourism student from STI Global. Her name is Colleen Posilero.
Hi, I'm Rachel Colleen Posilero from STI Global City. My question is for Ambassador Gary Domingo. Good day, sir. How does the United Nations deal with countries who are not members of these intergovernmental bodies in terms of international relations?
The UN is this huge organization. You have United Nations General Assembly. Perhaps some of you have done Model UN. PWU is very active in Model UNs. But perhaps, okay, we can focus on one organization on the UN, and that is the UN World Tourism Organization with headquarters in Madrid. So if the question is, if there are countries not represented in these bodies, because again, going to these conferences is expensive. And the World Tourism Organization is in Madrid. It's not in New York, where we have practically all countries represented, nor is it headquartered in Geneva, where most countries are represented. So, but nevertheless, how can you get those countries that are maybe not members or don't have the resources to attend the WTO, well, UN WTO meetings, is UN bodies such as the UNWTO, in their conferences, they allow the participation of NGOs and businesses. So the NGOs related to tourism and business organizations can represent the unrepresented countries. I mean, the countries which are otherwise unrepresented through formal diplomats.
Thank you again for answering that question, Mr. Bobby Horrigan. Now, the last question is from Leonel de los Santos, a tourism student from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng San Pablo.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Margaret A. Romero from Neviscay State University. And my question is for Ambassador Gary Domingo, sir. So this is my question, sir. Diplomacy is a very essential topic, and many Filipinos are unfamiliar with it in general. What can be done, in your opinion, to educate our fellow Filipinos about diplomacy and its significance to our nation?
Well, 1 out of 10 or more, out of Filipinos are overseas, and practically every Filipino has an OFW or overseas Filipino friend, relative. So that is already diplomacy. Being concerned and how the well-being, the welfare, and the progress of your kamag-anak overseas. So that is already a kind of diplomacy. So it's also understanding diplomacy is not just the work of DFA or DOT or DTI overseas. It's everyone who is moving from country to country, because diplomacy is all about connectivity. Again, I would be happy to do a presentation on diplomacy to our dear PW students, especially tourism students. But nevertheless, bring up diplomacy in conversations with your friends, neighbors, and relatives. Speak on diplomacy in your social media, in your Facebook, your TikTok, and whatnot. But also support learning on diplomacy in elementary and high schools. The youth are the key. And my framework for engaging the youth is the Diplomatic League.
Thank you for that answer, Ambassador Jesus Gary Domingo, and for highlighting the importance of educating Filipinos about diplomacy. And I think that's all for our Q&A session. I hope we have more time to answer other questions. Nonetheless, thank you to all our wonderful students for participating in this interesting session. And we appreciate and admire Ambassador Jesus Gary Domingo and Mr. Bobby Horrigan for answering all those questions and providing additional insights regarding diplomacy and management.
Thank you to our speakers. I hope all questions were asked and answered. To award the certificates, the Philippine Women's University School of Tourism. This certificate of recognition is given to Mr. Jesus Gary S. Domingo, Attorney Maria Antoinette C. Velasco Aliones, and Mr. Bobby Horrigan for sharing their valuable knowledge and expertise as resource speaker during the webinar with the theme 3R's for Today's Tourism, Reinforcing Partnerships, Rebuilding Trust, Recovering Industry. Given this 19th day of February 2022 at the Philippine Women's University, Taft Avenue, Manila, Philippines. Signed by Dr. Maria Erlinda S. Zacarias, Course Instructor, Tourism and Hospitality Marketing and Program Development, MSTM 508A. Dr. Christina N. Caluza, Course Instructor, International Tourism and Hospitality Diplomacy, MSTM 515A. Dr. Angeline U. Blanco, Course Instructor, Tourism and Hospitality Management, MSTM 512. And Dr. Efremuel Jose L. Abellana, Cluster Dean, Schools of Food Science and Technology, Tourism and Hospitality Management. We would now like to call our efficient and hard-working event chairpersons, Ms. Janeline Banta and Mr. Dave Sidney Tirones.
Mabuhay, Patriot Critics! On behalf of the graduate students of Master of Science in Tourism Management of Philippine Women's University, we want to thank God for His guidance and unwavering presence in the webinar, in the process of this webinar, to our University President, Mr. Marco Benitez, to our Chancellor SVP for Academic Affairs, Dr. Felina C. Young, to the Dean of School of Tourism Management Graduate Studies, Dr. Efremuel Jose Abellana, to our keynote speaker, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat, to our three valuable, commendable guest speaker, Ambassador Jesus Domingo, Chief Operating Officer Maria Antoinette Aliones, and Mr. Bobby Horrigan. From the bottom of our heart, maraming salamat. Thank you very much for your time and support for our webinar. We are beyond grateful for all your invaluable services rendered in this webinar.
To our three course instructors, Dr. Christina Caluza for our International Diplomacy for Tourism and Hospitality subject, Dr. Angelina Blanco for our Tourism and Hospitality Management subject, and Dr. Maria Erlinda Zacarias for our Tourism and Hospitality Marketing subject. Mahal na mahal po namin kayo. This isn't an easy job for us, but through your support, guidance, feedbacks, and suggestions, we are able to surpass all the possible hindrances that we might encounter in the making of this webinar. To our MSTM family, we are really grateful to all of you. We are beyond blessed and thankful that we are all gathered again virtually in the making of this very successful webinar. To all the schools, colleges, universities, stakeholders, and tourism and hospitality practitioners that participated in this webinar, thank you very much. Huwag po kayong magsasawa na sumuporta sa amin. Padayon MSTM, Padayon TWU. Again, this is Dave Sidney M. Tirones
and Janeline Banta,
your events head for this year's webinar with the theme
3R's for Today's Tourism.
Reinforcing partnerships, rebuilding trust, recovering industry. Keep safe and God bless everyone.
Thank you very much, Ms. Banta and Mr. Tirones. Just a quick reminder, please answer the evaluation form pinned in our Facebook and YouTube live chat. You will receive your e-certificates once the evaluation form is submitted. I believe that's about everything. We hope you have found this morning session informative and useful. I am Rachel Pitogo and it has been my pleasure to host this event. Thank you all for participating and for your presence for today's webinar. This ends our webinar brought to you by the Management of Science in Tourism Management graduate students. Thank you and have a great day, everyone.